Wow, I am so excited yet really nervous about this episode because I'm showing behind the scenes. I've never showed behind the scenes before, so I'm kind of nervous about how well this will go, so obviously I've planned it because I'm an over planner. But okay, let's see who's here. Dara's here. Good to see you. Kathleen's here, Jason's here, Peter's here. Peter was confused because my opening video doesn't have sound. It never has sound. It's just for the view, Peter. Sarah's saying how beautiful the view is. Andrew's here. And Dara's telling me not to be nervous. I think once it gets started, I'll be better. Thank you, Dara. And Wade's here. Ms. Spielberg. So for those of you that have never been here before, Wade is in my industry and he just loves to crack me up during my show, and I really appreciate when he does that. Erica's here on YouTube, and Erica was a guest on my show a few weeks ago. Okay, so the question of the day is, have you clicked on that go live button yet? Have you ever gone live on Facebook or YouTube? Most people start with Facebook, but have you actually gone live on your, let's just go with on your phone, Simple Simon, you would think Simple Simon. Have you gone live yet ever? So my story is that I was scared to death to go live. And when I finally tried to do it, I kept staring at that go live button, and I was really ridiculously nervous about it because I'm a perfectionist. I like things planned. I like knowing what's going to happen. I know I work in the tech industry, so I know tech can go wrong, but still I was like nervous to hit the go live button and then, talk to no one. I would be talking to my computer or my phone or basically an inanimate object. I'd be talking to myself, okay? But I had to learn how to get past that and learn how to imagine that there's somebody on the other side of the camera, just look through the camera, and on the other side are people like you guys. The weird thing, though, is when you do it from your phone, trying to find the camera on an iPhone, for instance, it's like, you end up trying to stare at the phone itself when you should be staring at this little dot over to the left. So you have to learn how to do that too. So you're actually making eye contact with the audience. Okay, so let's see. Erica says not yet, but I'm thinking about it. Sarah says yes. Sarah has a pretty cool show about making homemade soap. And she did a really interesting one the other day. I'm not going to give it away, but go search for Sarah Janes. You'll find it. Wade saying, oh, heavens, no. Yeah, that was me. I was like, I don't even do selfies. Like, I'm not that kind of person that goes around with my phone and takes photos of myself and, goes live everywhere I am. I'm just not that kind of person. So, all right. So Dara's saying that she's gone live from her phone and not yet her computer. Dara, it was funny. The first time I ever went live, I sat at my desk in my home office, and I went live from just facebook.com and just went live from my desk with my webcam. And somehow that was another level of security because I'd already talked on a webcam before with meetings, right? So just sitting at my computer versus doing it on the phone even. And as some of you know, I'm still struggling to go live from my phone, just random lives. Okay, so Andrew's saying he's gone live. Scary, but fun and exhilarating. I know. So for my weekly show, I'm not scared anymore in general, except for today. And I do think it's fun. I totally agree with you, Andrew. I love, I sound like Luria now. I love interacting with the people that have been following me for years and years, and I know their name in an email, or I know their name in a comment on a blog post, but there's so many people that I interact with that I've never met in person. So having this interaction is really, really cool. Okay. Wait, I still can't figure out how to work my cable TV remote. I hope you're kidding, Wade, since you are technical. He comes from IT, and then he's also doing litigation support now. Jason, I'm so glad you're here. I know you're really excited about this behind the scenes because you're in the process of setting up your studio. So I'm glad that you are enjoying this, and I always love to make you laugh. Okay, so the timer's down, and we've got a bunch of answers. So let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome to the Legal Tech Mastery Show. My name is Amy Bowser-Rollins, and we are here every Friday at the same time, same place, to share legal technology tips, things that are going on in the litigation support arena, and also just things in the legal industry in general. But today's episode is not any of that. So today's episode is a behind the scenes of my studio, where I've been going live since October 6th. That's when I started season 1. And I'm in season 2 now, and for whatever reason, I wasn't ready to do behind the scenes during season 1. I think it's because I was still building out my studio, I was still adding pieces, I was still learning by doing and making adjustments. So now I feel like I'm at a good place where I can actually share with you what I've learned about this whole going live and staring at a camera. So I'm hoping today that I'm able to share with you what I've learned from doing a weekly show since October. Okay, let's see here. Oh, Sarah's saying I have grandkids for the TV remote. Good point. I wonder if Wayne has grandkids he can use for that. Hi, Victoria. Good to see you here. Petra. Oh, I'm glad to see you. I thought you couldn't make it. Chris Badgett. Oh, I'm so happy to see you here. So Chris is a WordPress software. He designed a learning management system for WordPress. And I've known Chris for so many years, again, behind the scenes, like I never met him in person. And then I made an effort to meet him in person recently. So I think it was October, November, I went to Boston and I invited him to go with me. So I got to meet Chris in person. I was so excited. For those of you that know me in person, I'm a hugger, so I love to give hugs to people. So Dara's saying that she's looking forward to this. And thanks for noticing, Victoria. Victoria is saying, Philly girl loves your shirt. So I was watching a game. This is even before the Super Bowl. I was watching a football game. I think it was during the playoffs. And some people were running around with these shirts on. Like there was an actor on the board. I think it was Bradley Cooper. He was on the field. And he was wearing this shirt. And I was like, I have to have this. But you don't get it until you get it. But now that they won the Super Bowl, I'm really glad that I got this shirt. So now I have Super Bowl shirt and I have this winning is for the birds, which you actually have to look at it carefully to see that they're carrying a football. Thanks for noticing, Victoria. Good girl. Okay, so I do have a plan. For those of you that know me, I can't not have a plan. But I wanted to start out by explaining what this was supposed to be. So for those of you that don't know, my audience knows, but for those of you that don't know, I spent 2 years, from 2015 to 2017, I spent 2 years, I came up with this great idea to create video tutorials every Friday, and I decided that I would make them really short so that my busy legal professionals could have time to get through them. So I made them really short. They were all I was never on camera. I didn't even do a PIP window, picture in picture. And I just showed how to do some, fast tip. And so every Friday morning I released a video for 2 years. So there's a heck of a lot of videos on my YouTube channel and on my website, litigationsportguru.com. But after 2 years, I wanted to level up. I wanted to do something else. I started a blog in 2011, then I started a podcast in 2013, and then I started this Fast Tip Friday thing in 2015. So when you do something that long and you do it, I never missed a Friday. Sometimes I got smart and batch recorded, so that was nice. But sometimes I didn't. I would teach at Georgetown in the paralegal program on Thursday night and come home and record a Fast Tip Friday for the next morning. So bad. So I did those videos and then I wanted to level up. And I thought the way I would level up is to get in front of the camera. So I said, oh, I'll just take over a small bedroom in my house and I will create a video studio. I have no idea how to do that. So I started Googling. We all do, right? So I started Googling and I landed on, let's go here. So I landed on this website. Actually, I want to switch to, hold on a second. I have too many things open today, more so than usual. I usually have less things open so I can find them easily. But this is Live Streaming Pros. So the guy in the picture is David Foster, and the girl is Luria Petrucci. And Luria used to be Callie Lewis. If you ever watched any Geek Beat or Geek Life, or I think it's Geek's Life, Geek Beat, and I think there's a third one. But also she was on, tech shows and like Twit and stuff like that. But she was Callie Lewis. And now she's rebranded herself to Live Streaming Pros. So she has all this experience of being on live camera. David, on the other hand, he's my right hand. David is the tech guy. So he and I love to talk geek, and so I could ask my questions. In my industry, in litigation support, I never want to talk to a sales guy who can't talk tech. I always have to have the tech guy there. So David was at the level that could answer all my geeky questions. How do I do this? How do I do this? So I want to give credit to David, but I also want to give credit to, one more thing right here. So they just created this, if you're here today because you want to learn how to live stream, they just created this, they pulled together these videos of just walking you through how to think about doing what I just did, and it's free. And so I wanted to let you know, it's livestreamingpros.com/tech. And a little bit of it's Luria talking about the strategy of live, and a little bit of it is David going, talking through like what you should consider for your studio. And it's excellent. I'm already done with it, but I ran through the whole thing and it's excellent. And I've been telling everybody about this free workshop. Okay. So I also want to give credit to Stream Geeks. Stream Geeks, Paul Richards, for some reason cut off his head in that header, but here's Paul. Paul Richards goes out of his way. He works at PTZ Optics, which is a camera company, but they started this live show for beginner live streamers, and I've learned so much from Paul. He loves to experiment, he loves to try new things, and he loves to share his knowledge. So, and anybody who knows me knows that I appreciate anybody who's willing to learn something and then share it, not hoard the information. Okay, and lastly, I want to give credit to Tom Sinclair. So Tom started this Facebook group called Streaming Idiots and a weekly live show called Streaming Idiots because he used to be a streaming idiot. He just fell into live streaming and now he shares, and I've learned so much from him as well. Okay, so let's see, let's switch back to me. And let's see what we got going on in the comments. Ruth is here. Hi, Ruth. Petra, it's so funny you say that because I was like, I know everybody's going to be anxious. We're all anxious, but I needed to give credit where credit was due. And then I'm going there in a few seconds, Petra. You're almost there. Um, Peter's saying improvise. Yep. And Jason's saying he loves David and Luria's workshops. Sarah is saying, I love those guys. Does anyone else hear Luria in their head even when she's not live? Yes. And then thank you, Petra, for putting that in the comments. And Susan's here. Okay, so a bunch of people on the call today, on the live video today in the audience are people that learned from Luria and David with me. And but some are at all different kinds of levels, right? And then some other people that I've been sharing this knowledge with are instructors. So people that are trying to do training online and build a business, of doing that, and then having a live component to go with that, which is what I'm doing. So anyways, let's get started, okay? So the first thing I did is I put a new camera in my studio. It's really weird for me to see the back of my head instead of the front of my face, okay? But this is me sitting in my studio. The room is about, I want to say 9 by 12. It might even be smaller. It's a really, really small room. It's the smallest room. I have a 3-bedroom townhouse, so it's the smallest room. Now, what you can see, I'm going to use my phone and give you some other stuff to see, and also I'm going to use my camera to show you a few things. So I've got all that set up. But this is what it looks like from my desk, like what's going on here. I always tell people there's a lot going on, and it means that there's a lot going on, okay? And then in front of me are 2 monitors. Now, I bought, because this is a small bedroom and I didn't have a lot of space, I wanted to create or get some furniture that would be like portable, I guess. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on, getting something like a standing desk or things like that. So these tables, I've bought this one first, the one I'm sitting at. This table is a folding plastic table. But the cool thing is that it slides all the way up for standing and all the way down for sitting. So if I decide one day that I want to stand and do my show, I can do that. So I bought this originally and I've had it the whole time. But what happened was I learned that I needed a confidence monitor in the exact spot that I needed it, and I'll explain that more in a second. And then I added a 3rd monitor, which I'll explain in a second too. So you know what I did? I went and got another table from Amazon, which I have gathered links to everything. So if you want to see it, I can show it to you. But I went and got a second table, and this room is really tight. But the second table sits in front of me, and guess what? It's all the way up to the top. So it's a higher level than where I'm sitting, okay? So let's see. Sarah says 9 by 12 is a mansion. I have 5 by 6. 5 by 6. So that's like half. Yeah, so that's about half of what I have. Susan's saying, wow, 5 screens. I'm going to explain the use for them. So Petra's like Sarah. She has a small room too. I don't remember how small your room is, but I'm pretty sure it's close to Sarah's size. Maybe a little bit bigger. Your list of purchased recommended items would be awesome. So I pulled together a list, and I'm going to make something that is a list, but I ran out of time. So I have links to show you today for specific things that you ask about, but I will put it into a formal document, and then I'll come back and put a link to that in the description for YouTube and Facebook, okay? Can't even lie down in 5 by 6 without hitting your head. Not sure if that's true. Okay, so I have this view which is a little bit of me and a little bit behind the scenes, okay? So I'm going to switch back and forth to this one. But the first thing I wanted to show you was the 3 things that are on my desk, okay? So the first thing I have is my vMix computer, which is going to be really busy looking, okay? You ready? Okay, so this is my main monitor, and it's to my left, and this is running vMix, which is the software I'm using, which I'll show you in a second. Okay, so the first thing I have is that. The second thing I have is my Surface. So my Surface is in the middle, right in front of me, and the Surface has, I'm going to minimize this so you can see. So this is Surface Pro, which has a very high resolution. So one thing I learned, I wanted to remember to tell you today, is one thing I learned, I love high resolution. I love lots of desktop real estate. But the problem with that is I'm sending out a 1080p signal. And my OCD could not handle the fact that some of my letters in my slides on, if I was doing a PowerPoint or something like that, were grainy. They were, I forget the terminology. It's escaping me right now. But anyways, they weren't crisp. And so I had to learn from, Streaming Idiots people, and, I went into the forums and everything, and I got help. And the end result is to make sure that the machine that you're bringing in, I'm bringing in my Surface Pro right now, make sure that when you bring that in, it's 1080p as well, okay? So this is my Surface, and basically it's running this desktop capture software that runs with vMix, and it's free. But I wanted to show you some of the settings. So the settings on the Windows side is you can show the cursor or not. So I show the cursor when I'm showing web pages, and I don't show the cursor when I'm doing a PowerPoint. Now, I almost always have it silenced. The default is loopback, and I've never used it yet. I changed the frame rate to match what I'm sending out, which is 30 frames per second. And then this used GPU acceleration. I think it was on by default. So this is the software that I use to bring in a let's get the right shot here. Bring in my Surface, okay? So then to my right, I want to show you what that looks like. And I haven't brought in anti-aliasing. Thank you, Petra. Pixelated. It wasn't even, yeah, it was sort of pixelated, Wade, but anti-aliasing is the right word. Petra has that. So Dara is saying that she is tech savvy. She's very tech savvy. But you're right. If you have a level of, like, my industry litigation support is very stressful. It can be stressful. So I'm so used to working in an environment with attorneys and legal teams that is stressful already. So the level of, stress to get all this running, I'm used to it, okay? But people that aren't, I'm telling them to keep it simple. Keep it very simple. Pretty sure Petra's in a closet or the corner of a room or next to a closet or something tiny like that. But it looks good when she does her show, exactly. Okay, so the next piece of computer, the next computer is my Mac. And the funny thing about my Mac is that I've never brought my Mac into the show before. I use it as another computer because David Foster taught me not to use my streaming PC for anything other than streaming, okay? And because I'm in the tech industry, I get that you can't expect a computer to multitask. You also can't install a lot of software on a streaming PC. First of all, I'm now a Mac person. I've been a Mac person since 2010. I had to go build another PC, which I've done a long time ago with my husband's help. But I had to go get a PC again to do this streaming thing. And I'm keeping it as clean as possible. I'm not installing anything else on it. So this is my MacBook. So the first thing I open on my MacBook is the desktop capture software, although I don't usually do that. I'm doing that for you today. So there's desktop, this is free vMix desktop software for Windows and Mac. And then I open my links in case I need to give them in the comments. And also if I'm going to put any links in the comments, I open that text file that I've already prepared ahead of time. And then this is the vMix Social. So this is the ability, and I was so glad when they finally got the YouTube side of this working. Now you can see the comments coming in. It aggregates the comments from both platforms, so I can watch them together, and I don't have to go back and forth. Watching comments on Facebook is a pain in the butt because it doesn't work well. It just needs refreshing, and it skips people. Like Lana, my friend Lana, commented on my early show, and I missed the comment because it didn't tell me. Okay, so I'm switching desktops, by the way, on my Mac. So I always open Facebook and watch it and make sure that it's streaming, but I stop it, make sure that I'm not wasting bandwidth. And then I also open YouTube. So on this machine, on my Mac, when I'm getting ready, I have all this going. I also use this Facebook and YouTube to make the first comment of the day. And then I use that to test vMix Social and make sure the comments are coming in. Okay. So that's the third machine. So if we go back to this view, MacBook over here, which is only used for vMix Social for the most part. My Surface in front of me. I have two mice. So that's fun. Sometimes in some of the shows I'll talk about how I went to the wrong mouse. So this mouse is the Surface. And the reason I don't use the trackpad on this is because it's not good. The trackpad on a Mac is excellent. The trackpad on this, it's also noisy. And actually that brings up a point that I was going to bring up later, but I'm going to tell you now. So I have a mouse pad right here, but I also have a mouse pad right here that's really big. This is a gamer mouse pad, and it used to be right here in front of me. And the reason I got it was to absorb some of the noise that is made when you're using your mouse and keyboard. So when I would be typing sometimes, I don't do it that much during the show anymore, but I did in the beginning, and it would make noise. So the other thing I did, so I have padding underneath the mouse with a mouse pad, and then I have this really thick gamers, and then I bought two more for my desk downstairs, my main desk, because they're awesome. They're really big, and they take up, a lot of space, but I can put my mouse and my keyboard on them. But one thing I want to show you real quick is, grab the right mouse, Amy, this right here. So in vMix, if you end up using vMix, I learned this when I learned how to podcast. When you podcast, there's a way to what's called raise the floor. And you can you can tell the system to ignore anything of a certain audio level. So what I did when I realized that there was a potential of my mouse clicks coming through as I was going live, I knew the concept, and so I went into the software, and sure enough, here's this noise gate option. I enabled it, and I just barely, slid that thing over to make sure that it, basically, it's hiding my mouse clicks. So you may still hear it sometimes, but for the most part, it does cover them. Okay, let's see here. Double sound? I have no idea. Was it when the Mac was on? Yeah, Nick's saying maybe the Mac. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you know what? On the Mac, somebody else told me this. Remember I showed you that on the Surface I could go in and make it silent? On the Mac, there's literally no settings. So you can't even change the frame rate, nothing. In the desktop capture software, there's 0 settings. So that's interesting. Actually, I'm going to close the desktop software on the Mac right now but that's good. And don't do that next time. And now I need to, you know what? My audio is muted, but my microphone is probably not. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. Let's see. So, Sarah, to answer your question, my son is a gamer. My son is, one of my 2 sons is a gamer, and my husband is a gamer, but I am not a gamer. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is my second display. So I have my main display for vMix over here, and then I have that display right there, which I made this part up. Nobody taught me this. This is me being Amy Bowser. So this monitor right here is what's called my preview or confidence monitor. So that one I knew I needed, even when I was going to pre-record videos. So this one I can see the output, and also, so let me show you what I decided to do on the second monitor to the left. So this is what's in that monitor right now. So I basically decided that I would, instead of taking notes, making notes and then going down like this, I would put them within iShot. So my friend Barry Friedman, who learned all of this with me, he decided to use a whiteboard that's like leaning against something. He just writes all these code words on it and leans it, he's a whiteboard kind of guy. I'm not a whiteboard person. But I don't know how I came up with the quadrants for it, but it just made sense. I was putting text, that I could easily see to the left of the camera. So when you see my eyes dart a little to the left, I'm just looking at my notes. Okay? All right, so that's the 3 monitors that I'm using, okay? So Peter says, am I using a green screen? I am not. Nick. Can you mute it from the vMix side? It wasn't that bad still. Probably. I'm not going to worry about it, Nick, because I'm probably not going to do that again. But at least I know if I decide to use it again. Okay. Yes, to Nick, answer your question, I do have to make sure I do that when I'm using other NDI devices, like my phone. So I've already made sure that audio is off. Okay, so next on my list is to use my phone, which has a really cool app, and show you a couple of things. So this is you can see behind me and in front of me. I'm going to unplug the power because that was just there for, oh, his Facebook comments. What the heck's going on? Okay, so let's see here. Let's bring this up on the screen. Yay! All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna, my chair, there's not enough room in here, as you guys see. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is, Petra, this is for you. I am getting ready to set up this GoPro. It's gonna be behind me on the shelves, looking down at the dogs that are right here. Hi, Maggie. Okay, so the dog cam is going to be for them, and that is plugged into a Elgato HD 60S, which I'll show you in a second. But I also want to show you, this is so these are my earphones that I use when I have a guest. You have to be able to hear your guest. They do not have any microphone on them. They're just earbuds, and they wrap around your ear really well, and with my hair it hides it. Okay, so, and then this is I wanted to be able to show you this, and this is the best way to do it. So this is my controller. So this allows me to do some things automatically. So I can do my intro and my outro. It's blinking because it's recording and streaming. I got the stream button all the way up there so I don't accidentally hit it. This button right here allows me to take the comment off and overlay to. This is telling me the master audio is on. This would tell me if my main shot was on. This button I use a lot to swap between the thing I just showed you and the thing I want to show you. So this swaps between preview and output. And then these are all PTZ shots that I may or may not show you today. But that's my controller. Okay, so then if we back up a little, there's my microphone. There's a very bright light, but there's my microphone. So it's on a boom arm right to the side of me, and it's a Rode NTG2 shotgun mic. And it sits just in front of me. So it sits above me and just in front of me. And then right behind that, you see a mixer. So this is a Mackie mixer that I had from my podcasting days. And because the microphone is an XLR mic and needs phantom power, I used my mixer that I had laying around. So there's other options that other people use, and I have those on my list already to share with you. But anyways, that's how I use the mixer. Okay, so this is giving you an idea of the space between. Literally, there's no space here. And the funny thing is that as of 2 days ago, there was a tripod there with my PTZ on it, my camera. And yesterday, I went to put the camera on a new tripod that was sturdier, and I laid it on the table. And I thought, well, heck, why don't I keep it on the table? So I'm trying that as of today. Today's the first day with my PTZ on the table because the table is higher. There's my 2 monitors, and I have 2 box lights. Okay. So, and then this is the view behind me. This is just a wall, which I'll show you in a different shot. There's my plant from season 1. And, oh, I wanted to remember to show you this. This is my label maker. So I've had this a really long time. They probably don't make it anymore, but they make similar ones. But Maggie, get down. The label maker allowed me to use clear tape and label my buttons here. You can sort of see that they're labeled. Okay. Let's switch. Close this down so I don't run down my phone. I think I'm going to move on to the PTZ and then come back to the questions. You have my PTZ, Petra says. I had it first, Petra. Okay. What is a PTZ camera? It's a camera that allows you to do pan, tilt, and zoom. So I was going to use, my original plan was a Canon Vixia, and it was like an R50 or something like that. Perfectly good camera, new out of the box, had never used it, but I knew I was going to be doing videos. And then David Foster entered my life and said, you have to get a PTZ. And I liked the idea of being able to do this. So if I hit my home button, it's pulling out to show you what's behind me. So you can see that I have a moving blanket covering a window. And then I have a backdrop. Now this backdrop is actually attached. Let me switch to this. So you can see it better. So this backdrop is actually on the wall. My original backdrop from season 1 was on a stand. A backdrop stand, which of course in a small room took up space, and it actually was a maybe 10 to 12 inches away from the wall, because that's how the stand, it's like a tripod stand. So, and then I use these clips on every side to clip the backdrop to the stand. David and Luria are always just putting it up on the wall. I didn't know if I could because I have this window and this moving blanket, but it turns out I can. So the backdrop is literally on the wall with push pins, because that's what David Foster teaches, putting push pins into moving blankets to put them on the wall. Okay, so this is the view. This is my main shot. So, and the reason I'm switching back and forth between this is because David teaches that when you frame your shot, you tend to make it too far away. So he kept making me make it, closer and closer and closer. So this is my main, what I call my main shot, okay? This is my computer, which is kind of cool. So this is a computer that I built, and I have the specs to show you if you're interested. But this is a high-end computer with a 1070 graphics card, and I also added another PCI card for extra USB-C ports, because faster, sends the data faster. I love USB-C because I'm a Mac person. So that's the computer. The thing on the top is my 4 terabyte external drive that I back up everything to, and make sure I have copies of everything. The switch down below on the table, so that's an Ethernet switch. That it means that everything in my room right now is hardwired. Okay, so the funny story is, I'm just telling you what I have, because if you're concerned about your own setup, that switch is plugged into a 150-foot Ethernet cable that runs from the top floor of my townhouse down to the middle floor of my townhouse into another switch. That switch is connected by a 100-foot cable to the basement, where my husband's man cave is, which is where our router and our cable modem is. So I'm literally getting hardwire from my basement all the way up to the top level of my townhouse through 2 switches. Who would have thunk that it would work? But it's working great. And the thing to the left is my other capture card. So I have a capture card inside the computer that handles my SDI cable to my PTZ. And then I have the second capture card that I just added last week to get ready to set up the GoPro. So that one's using HDMI. Okay, and then to the right is a what am I thinking of? The thing you plug everything into. Not a power strip, but a surge protector. That's the word I was looking for. I have 3 surge protectors in this room. I have that one. I have one behind my monitors that's all my lights and my cameras plugged into. And then I have another one off to the right. Okay, so that's my, actually I forgot that I set this preset up. So this is the benefit of a PTZ. So this is the other capture cards. And the reason I bought this originally is I thought I was going to be live streaming from my Mac. And that uses USB-C and HDMI. Okay, so let's switch over here. This is my dock for my Surface, which allows me to have power and Ethernet. And then this is my adapter for my MacBook that gives me Ethernet, and then I have power plugged in. So that's that. Let's come back to the main shot. And now you see the benefit of a PTZ. Mary, you made it. Yeah, I said it earlier. I think it's 9 by 11 or 12. Jason, I knew you'd get excited about the Elgato because I know you're trying to use the controller. So to answer your question, Mary, I don't need one right now for a teleprompter, but I envision that if I start doing things like talking head and talking to a camera. I mean, I definitely am going to do those, but I already bought software that does it, from a computer. So I don't know if I'm going to, it's another huge expense to get because I would have to get a good one. I got a good, everything here is, high quality. Um, Sarah's saying she's dizzy because there's a lot going on. So, Petra, the LED lights are new too. There's green going on everywhere, and there's green over here. This is hard to do. There's green right here. The LED lights is something I didn't have in season 1, and I just put them in a few weeks ago. So Dara's saying she's loving every second of this. Okay. Oh my gosh. Nicholas is saying I have that same label maker. That's hilarious. I mean, I got it a long time ago. It comes in a nice case and everything. And I just pull it out. I label everything. My husband makes fun of me. I label all my drawers. Like I have plastic drawers. Everything's organized. Everything's labeled. I'm crazy. Unkit, good to see you. Let's see if we got any more questions. Automagically is one of Susan's favorite words. So Peter's saying he has to get longer hair to hide his earbuds. Okay, so keyboards, I didn't worry about the sound per se. I mean, I did, but in terms of what, you have to get a keyboard and a mouse that you're comfortable with. But what happened for me is that CasePoint, the company I work with part-time, made everybody switch to this Microsoft set. It was a designer set that was very plain and keyboard and mouse. And that was at the office when I used to work at the office. And then I have like 3 sets at home now because they're so basic. But some people at the office hated them, but I like them. So I think that everybody has, is pretty picky about their keyboard setup. Okay, so Susan's asking what the iPhone app is. Let's switch over to so I had that queued up for you. Oh, look, my Chrome extension's working. So much for planning. Okay. This is the vMix software that I'm using, and I just wanted to let you know what happened with me. I bought the HD 350 version because that's the version we all need to start with. Anything less than that is not good enough to get started, in my opinion. So 350, not bad, one-time price, I'm cool with that. But then what happened was I bought a PTZ camera, and in order to integrate the PTZ with vMix, I needed to go up to the $700 version. Oh my God. Didn't expect that when I bought the camera. But I can't not use the software to control it. You can control it yourself, but it's just not the same. You just saw me using the remote. I could totally use the remote, but I don't want to do that. But the cool thing is that I use vMix Call down here for guests, and I can have 2 vMix callers now. Before I want to have guests that are panels, so I want to have like 3 and 4 people joining my show, and for that I've learned how to use Zoom to bring Zoom into my live show. I already learned how to do that. In fact, Tom Sinclair, that's why I gave him credit, he's the one that showed me that, and Paul Richard both taught me that in their own way. This is the desktop capture software that is free. And this is the app to answer Susan's question. So it's a NewTek NDI app. It comes on Android and iTunes, and it's 20 freaking bucks. But I had to get it. I've never bought an app that's for my phone that's $20. Ridiculous. And then this is my camera that I just showed off to you guys. So this is a pretty darn cool camera. I like my hover zoom. So that's it. Some Petra has one, and it's really, really cool. Okay. Nick's saying vMix is so worth it because it simplifies everything. It's doing things the right way instead of trying to do workarounds. Okay, let me look at my notes. Okay, one thing I wanted to tell you is that one thing I learned, and I'll just switch back. So one thing I learned is if you're looking at the camera, and you're supposed to look at the camera, in order for me to appear to be looking at you, I need to look at the camera. But I'm distracted because I've got this really good view of what's going on right there, right? So, but when I have a guest, it's even harder because I want to stare at the guest on my preview monitor, right? So what I learned is two things. One is I put my chat lower third. So when I put a chat up, I might show you, Barry. Maybe. Can I take you to dinner sometime? He's joking because he flew from California to Maryland here, and we did have dinner. Thai food. All right, so see how that lower third chat is shifted? It's literally in the left corner. So I also have another chat bubble that, let's see if I can pull that up. So this one doesn't have the right comment on it, but this is my other chat bubble. If I'm doing a presentation and I'm using my lower third area to put the points up that I'm talking about, then I move my chat. I move my chat up here. But the reason it's all the way over to the left end like that is because I can stare at the camera and look at either version. My point is make sure that you put your lower third chat for your chat for vMix Social. Make sure that you put it as far down, as close to your camera as possible so that I can read the comment just by looking to the right a little. And the second thing is, like I told you, I'm looking a little bit to the left to see my notes. But the second thing I learned is everybody was putting, when they do the guest, let me bring that up. I made a sample for you so I could show you. So when I do a guest like this is just a screenshot. I was putting the guest on the right and me on the left because that's what everyone does. And then I realized I would more likely stare at him. Nikolai was last week. I'm more likely to stare at him, and if he's on the left, I'm closer to the camera. Okay, so that makes sense, right? So switch your guest to the left and make sure all your chat lower thirds and everything are as far, basically as close to your camera as possible. So if your camera's over there, that would be different, right? But you're supposed to be staring at the camera. So, all right, vMix call, I talked about that. Zoom, I talked about that. Once you have a setup like this, you can sit here and do training videos. So I was able to cancel my webinar software because now I don't have to pay by how many people show up. And for me, I was always stuck between 100 and 200. Like I'd have to pay for 200 in case I had 120 or something like that, right? Now, don't even care about that anymore. Now I just can do a webinar using this setup and not even worry about how many people show up. And then I can do training videos. Okay, so I do have my computer specs for those of you that are interested. Now, when you go to look for a computer, I tell people to start with the medium size of what the medium machine that vMix recommends. First of all, I'm going to tell you to use vMix if you're going, all the way up to level 4. Level 4 is the TV quality setup. Okay, so let's switch. I have way too many things. This is why I don't have too many things open. All right, so this is my computer that I have, and it's a I compiled it together because I bought a gaming PC, but it had some things and not other things. So it had a good enough motherboard, but it didn't have enough memory, and it didn't have the right, it didn't have the graphics card that I wanted. So I basically literally added another game graphics card, the 1070. So 1080 Ti is the highest end graphics card you can get, and that's what gamers try to get. But it's $799, something like that. It's between $700 and $800, and I was trying to get a PC as close to $1,500 to $2,000. I ended up at $2,300. So I used a website that my husband showed me to compare graphics cards, and I figured out that the 1070 was almost the same quality without, and it was almost half the price. It was a little more than half the price. So, but anyways, so this is literally my, I have an i7, but I have a 7700 and I have a 4.2. I wanted to make sure I could go as high as possible. And this, I learned all about the generations of your processor. My husband is into this more than I am. I mean, he knows how to do this, so he taught me a lot of this stuff. But I was doing my Amy thing with doing all my research and making sure I was making, good decisions. So the video RAM on my graphics card is 8 gigabytes, which is the top end one is 11 gigabytes. So I was very happy with 8. You need an SSD drive to do live streaming. And then this is the motherboard, and then these are the 3 monitors that I showed you. Okie dokie. Okay, so Barry's saying, I just finished hosting a 90-minute masterclass for him. I'm going to do it on our private group on Facebook Live using vMix Level 4. So beautiful, the technology, the delivery, the ease. Yep. It's like once you invest in it, you can use it for all kinds of things. Let's see here. Dara's answering questions for me. Thank you. Love how detailed you are with being your explanations of why you're doing everything. And that's why I had to get to a certain point to do my behind the scenes. So Luria teaches you to do behind the scenes like week 2 or 3. And I was like, I don't know enough to tell you. I mean, I could have shown you what I had, but it wouldn't have been this, and I wouldn't have been able to tell you why I have this. All right, so let me check my notes. Computer specs, vMix software, desktop. I already told you the Surface needs to be at 1080. The Surface, your computer should be what your output is. I didn't tell you about the hardware encoding part yet, but basically vMix loves NVIDIA graphics cards, so they give you the ability to check a box when you do your streaming settings to encode, to basically lean on or leverage the graphics card a little bit more. And then I already talked about no Wi-Fi. Now, on the no Wi-Fi thing, I will admit that my Surface was on Wi-Fi for a while because I didn't have another dock. I have a dock downstairs on my desk, but gradually I bought another power adapter for the MacBook, so I didn't have to carry it up and down the stairs, and I just got the dock in here for the Surface. So part of it, you can do your extra computers on Wi-Fi if you want to. Okay. I think that's everything I wanted to go over. So let me see. Let me go back here for the people that are just getting here or haven't seen this yet. Nikolai is hashtag legal, and he's like, yeah, that's me. Let's see. Barry says he's thinking about moving his confidence monitor to the right behind the main camera so I can see it while still looking into the camera. Yeah, I think yours is not exactly near your camera. Yeah. Yeah, I think your camera's here and your confidence monitor is over there on the right, and you have to glance. But I don't think you glance at it as much as I do. At least it doesn't seem like you do when I watch your lives. Peter's asking if he gets a list of the toys, and Dara answered him. So I have a complete list of everything, and I will pull it all together. I started pulling it together, but basically ran out of time. Um, so see, Barry hadn't seen the behind the scenes view yet. Let's see. So Peter, I think he's talking about the processor. So that's the word I was looking for, generation. I was like, my husband was like, what generation is it? And I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. In fact, I had to go look up, like, actually, let me show you this real quick before I leave. Because, use the right mouse, Amy. So this is in my, I shared this with all of the Live Streaming Pros students a while ago when I first bought my computer. But this is stuff I learned. I basically documented the entire process of shopping for a computer. And I shared it with everybody in a Google Doc. Now I'm going to transfer it over to this list of my gear. But I learned about integrated graphics cards versus a dedicated graphics card. So I literally have both right now. I have one on my motherboard that wasn't good enough, and then I have the dedicated one that I added. I learned that I was so confusing when I was looking at video cards. Like, they all kept saying GeForce GTX and then some number, and I was like, but which one am I going to get? And it turns out this is the chipset, and then MSI was the brand that I bought. Stuff I had to learn. Good idea to have a motherboard and a video card made by the same company. So in my case, it was MSI. I added additional memory, but my husband learned from this mistake, and now I'll never make the mistake. If you're adding memory, make sure you add exactly the same type of memory. Don't mix and match your memory. So I basically waited till I got the computer home. I opened it up. I popped the memory stick out, and then I bought 2 more sticks just like it from Amazon. And then I learned all this about the real differences between an i5 or i7. Like, I bought a bunch of different computers. I have like 6 computers myself, but I just try to get the bleeding edge. I never really thought about it. So when somebody says an i5, it depends on what generation it is. And this was funny. My son, get the 1080, and then I sort of already told you that I figured out that I needed as much video RAM as I could afford. There it is, the 750. These are helpful websites. This one let me figure out what my Mac specs were, because my Mac specifications were, because I have an iMac and 2 MacBooks and a Surface, and I originally thought I was going to live stream from the Mac with Wirecast. I was just about to buy Wirecast when David says, I'm loving this new thing called vMix. Peter's saying i7 is crucial. But when you're trying to start live streaming, you try to start with what you have. And so I made a list, I made a table of all my hardware that I had, and I had to go look up what my Mac had. This is the website that I used to compare CPU Boss. My husband pointed me to it, to compare one processor versus another to get the right one that you can afford. And the same thing for here. The GPU Boss really, really helped me save $499 or $500 basically, because this 1070 it basically charts how good it is at everything, and I compared like how it handles this and how it handles that for the 1070 versus 1080, and it was so nominal. So I was like, well, I'm gonna save $200 and get more memory. And this is where I learned about the CPU architectures. All of this will go on my list. And then this is a video I found after I built my PC from the guy at vMix, Tim. He built a new PC, and he did a hilarious video. These are my specs on my second and third machines in here, because I had this around because I already, like I said, I thought I might use... I thought I might stream with what I had. And I did install, when you buy vMix, you can install it on 2 machines. So I actually installed it on my Surface in case I'm traveling and I want to go live using vMix and be able to do my lower thirds and everything. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a lot of RAM in it. It's a newer Surface, but it works. But I wouldn't do it for a real show. Let's see here. Love how you simulcast to YouTube as well. Are you going to talk about that at all? I can. So I started out with baby steps. I started out with like I didn't understand the whole thing about. I knew I had to have enough bandwidth to go to do a live show to push information out. But when I first started, I only had I think it was 21 megabits per second upload speed. And so I was a little nervous. Since then, I've upgraded. By the way, just call your company and see if there's a newer upgrade they forgot to tell you about, because I actually doubled my internet speed, download and upload, and it went down $1. Not, they don't advertise that, but just ask. Anyways, now I have 40 something, so I felt more comfortable, being able to simulcast. Plus, I surveyed my audience before I even started a live show. And I asked them if their law firm or their government or corporation, government agency or corporation blocks Facebook at work. And like 40% of the people responded that they block Facebook at work. So I can't, that's another reason I really needed to simulcast to YouTube. And then I would have comments on Facebook afterwards, and the live comments on YouTube just go away. So I started getting comfortable with putting comments on the screen so I could memorialize that there was actually engagement going on and YouTube. Now the YouTube comments are, showing up in the replays. So that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to let you go. Mary, is the preview monitor a TV or a computer monitor? So I have purchased TVs, but everything in here is a monitor, is a regular monitor. Let's see. All right, if there's any questions that I missed because I needed to get the content out to you, I will go back and answer them. And like I said, I kind of like this view. I will finish the list that I created and make it prettier. I pulled everything together, but I didn't create something. So I'll create something and I'll put a link to it in the description for YouTube and Facebook so that we can memorialize every freaking thing I talked about. Because I didn't even mention the gaffer tape. That was kind of funny because gaffer tape is in my world for getting ready for trial. We use tape that doesn't ruin the carpet. That came back around in this. So that was kind of funny. All right, I am going to let you go, and I will answer any questions that I missed afterwards. I will go in. If there's some on YouTube, I will not be able to answer them in line, but I'll answer them below in the comments, okay? So let's see here. I also love how you simulcast to YouTube. Okay, you already did that one. Sorry. Great webinar. It's a live show, Peter. Wade, thanks, Amy. Amazing what you've done. Yeah, I thought you might enjoy just seeing the other side of it, Wade, since you're a regular here. And Dara's confirming. Yeah. And actually, Dara, Luria pushes Facebook messaging and bots and everything. And, she keeps asking me if I've implemented it yet, just curious. And I keep reminding her that why would I implement something that only Facebook people can do? Because I literally every week have 50-50 people on YouTube and Facebook. And I don't want to do something to make people feel left out. So, Karen, good to see you here. There was no mention of banning Peter, but I'm glad you showed up, Peter. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions, because Peter's another instructor that's very adamant about making sure he teaches students the right way. So I love that about you, Peter. All right, I'm going to let you go. And thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I answered some of your questions, okay? Take care. See you next Friday.